As my parents were benefiting from the golden age of socialism in Romania, America was viewed by many as this holy land, this golden place where actually people can be free, and the way they do politics should actually be applied to the rest of the world. And you end up growing up with this fake illusion of what the United States actually is. And many Romanians still would say today that the American system is much better than the ones we have here. So when I show Romanians news from the United States, more often than not, they believe that I'm making it up, that the news isn't real, that I'm using a parody website in order to cite the news from. But no, the news are real. And the reason I'm doing this is not because I want to belittle the United States. Far from it. It's just that I want to show that every country has its flaws, right? So Romania has its flaws, America has its flaws. There is no such thing as a perfect system. However, with that out of the way, you're looking at what's happening in America, and they are moving closer and closer to a much more imperfect system than what it used to be even a couple of years ago. And here you have one such example. Now, if you're not aware with the American system, they have this student debt thing that keeps rising up, and no one wants to fix it because it's amazing as a political talking point. Like, you can just print money and pay the student debt in order to get more votes. Buying votes is illegal, but you kind of launder the buying process through means like this. And the system is mentally deficient as well, by the way. Like, if you're a kid who's 18 years old and you're going into a bank in order to try and make a loan of $50,000 so that you can start a business, they will laugh you off of the bank unless you have some collateral to give them. They are just going to throw you out. They're going to call the Rockefellers so that they can laugh at you as well in real time. They will not give you a loan unless you can have some collateral. But if you're an 18-year-old kid and you go to a bank and you say, yeah, I need a $100,000 loan, I want to be going to gender studies in order to become a PhD in lesbian dancing mastery. Oh, sign right here, sign right here. And the thing is that once you sign, unlike most other debts that you can bankrupt on, that you can forfeit on, this one will follow you for the rest of your life. Like, the American government guarantees for you, right? So the bank can take the money from the government, and then the government will follow you for the rest of your life for that debt. And this is why the subject of student debt comes up time and time again, because you have a lot of young people that did the bad decision in order to take a debt that they now cannot repay. And this is besides the fact that the implication is that manual labor is horrible, that no one should be a trucker, no one should be a plumber, no one should be a construction worker. You need to go to university in order to avoid doing these jobs, because these jobs have prestige. So by incentivizing more and more people to go to university or making university mandatory, everyone needs to have it, everyone is going in debt. So it's horrible. But anyway, we have the Speaker of the White House finally addressing this issue. Because recently they gave $35,000 to many individuals who were in debt in order to abolish the debt. Notice how they did this before the elections. Very interesting. Again, as I mentioned before, if they wanted to fix the problem, they would completely dismantle the system. But instead, what they want to do is to get votes. And most people are aware of this. Even left-leaning people are aware of this. Which is why it's interesting to see how the White House press correspondent responded when pressured with a question.
Just to put a fine point on it right now, for the 4.7 million Americans who have received this debt relief, the average, as you said at the start of this visit, was $35,000 their relief has been for. So I guess why don't those individuals who didn't receive $35,000 in debt cancellation deserve a $35,000 check from other Americans for what other means they would want to use it?
You're talking about
Those people who didn't go to college, so they're not getting debt relief, the $35,000 that they don't get because they didn't go.
We're talking about folks who are in debt who are literally being crushed. Literally being crushed because they took, you know, they took
Literally being crushed.
financially. Okay, is that okay with you? Okay, but I know.
So a little bit of condescending, a little bit of arguing over the semantic of the words. a little bit of fakeness of compassion. I mean, of course, the kid that didn't want to become a plumber ended up becoming a colonial studies expert. Like, he knows everything about how to colonize. If we ever want to colonize the moon, he is the guy in charge. But, like, until then, he can't find a job. So he has $35,000 in debt that the rest of Americans have to pay. But, like, think about it from an equitable point of view, right? Like, if you're a person that grows up in a trailer or in a ghetto or in a place that is filled with poverty that you can't run away from, like the Democrats used to say, and you're looking at this prospect of, should I actually go to a university? Should I get a student debt loan? And you're thinking, no, I won't, because I will probably not be able to pay it back. I'm going to make a sensible financial decision. Maybe one day, if I get a job and I get some good payment, I can save some money and then do a university. But you know what? Until then, maybe I'll become a truck driver. Like, being a truck driver, it can earn you quite a bit. During COVID, like, I knew people who worked in California now were making $5,000 a week. You know, it's not like a respectable job in the sense that you're going to get statues dedicated to you. Like, this was the best truck driver of, you know, like, you're not going to get that. But it is an essential job. It is a respectable profession that you can do. And it's also vital for the well-functioning of any nation. But if you take that decision, it turns out that the politicians tell you, no, you were flat out wrong. Because had you actually gone to a university, we would have paid your debt eventually. But now, you are actually a truck driver, so we're going to tax your ass. And we're going to use the tax money in order to pay for someone else that went to a university. Does that make any sense? Is that equitable? I don't think it's equitable. And what's more interesting about this is the fact that they're not even taking away the college degrees of the people that get this abolishment of a loan. I mean, think about it this way, right? Like, let's say you go to the store and you buy a vacuum cleaner and you're not happy with it, so you want to give it back, right? You give back the vacuum cleaner, you get back your money. Why isn't it the same with the university? It's like, if the government pays your debt, you should be unable to use your degree. It should be illegal to mention anywhere that you took the degree, that you went to that college. You're still benefiting, by the way, because when you go to a college, and I'll tell you this as a person who did med school and who also did law school, it's not that you actually get to learn a lot, because you can learn a lot of stuff in your free time as well. There's other ways that people can learn. You can learn through apprenticeship and other programs. The benefit of going to a university is networking. You now get to meet all these other people that work in the field. When you're trying to get a job, you already have the connections. That is the most important part of going to a university. So you're getting that. And my suggestion would be, you get to keep that because they can't take that away from you. But you should be unable to say that you have graduated that university. Like, for instance, if you went to med school, they should take away your license. If you want the government to pay you back the debt. It's kind of like, don't like it, you get a returnal, right? You get a refund. But in order to get a refund, you have to give back what you actually took. Wouldn't that be fair? Of course it would be fair, but they're not going to do something like this. Instead, they're going to not only make fun of the people that chose not to go to a university, or the people that are even more idiotic and seem to have paid their debt before the government could have paid it for them, but they're also going to fake this empathy. It's like, oh yes, so think about the poor students that went to gender studies and now they can't pay. Oh no, they're being crushed, literally crushed. I know every single one of them. Every single one of them is being crushed. I know them personally. I spoke with everyone. But the thing is, the title of the YouTube video, right, is the brutal way that you see politics being done in America. And this is why it's so divisive as well. Because when I went to law school, and I think this is the same principle that existed in America up until the last couple of decades, is that as an American president, you're supposed to care about every single citizen. Even the people that didn't vote for you. So, whether you're a Democrat, you're supposed to care about the Republicans, and if you're a Republican, you're supposed to care about the Democrats. Obviously, this is not going to be applied perfectly every time, but it is the principle that you should try to aspire to as a politician. Well, this is what people think, right? But instead what we see is that, no, like as a politician, you now have interest groups. And in this situation, the interest group is the people that have student debt. Like you do not care about the other students that paid. You do not care about the plumbers, the farmers, or anyone else. It's like we're going to focus on this group and fuck everyone else. Why are we doing this? To get votes. I mean, if you, like, think about the situation that you're placing a person in, right? If you have an individual that has $35,000 in debt, and you have this politician that maybe they don't like, maybe they don't even agree with anything they say, but the politician says, yeah, if I get in power, I will abolish your loan. How likely is it that the person isn't going to vote for the politician? Versus how likely is it that they will? I mean, this is the situation that they're putting people in. This is why it's immoral to have criminals voting. Like in most countries, if you commit a serious crime, you can't vote. And the reason for it is that then the politicians could literally lobby the criminals. Like they could go in prisons and they could say, hey, vote for me and I'll abolish your crimes, or I'll make your crimes easier, I'll give you amnesty. And that is immoral. And that is why it's not allowed to be done. Because like there are certain things that you can say which will get you the vote regardless of what other principles you're having, regardless of what other policies you're having, regardless if your party is mired in corruption scandals or whatever we see in other countries. Like, this is why I am saying it's a brutal way of doing politics, because it's very cynical. Incredibly cynical. Like, you have the ability to print money. Okay, so we're printing money and we're paying people's debt. Surely, and you do this before elections as well. Like if you notice, the promise of the Democrats, the promise of the Biden campaign was literally this. It's like, if we vote out, we're going to abolish student debt. So they had the Senate, they had the House, they had the White House, and they didn't do it so that they can promise it again at midterms. So when I look at this lady, you know, like she's obviously placed in a difficult position, because the question is like, what about the other Americans? Well, I guess the other Americans need to get on board on an interest group that the Democrats have, so that they too may be considered. Otherwise, just go to work, have your taxes paid on time, so that we can use those taxes in order to pay off the interest groups that we believe are going to vote for us. Such a cynical way of doing politics. Like, it's not about the nation anymore. It's not about the well-being of the citizens. It's just like, which groups can we look at and what can we do for them so that they vote for us, so that we can remain in power, so that we may use the strings of power to benefit ourselves rather than the nation state. And this is not just an American thing. Like, you see it all over the West, to the point where I even made a video and I said, I don't think we actually have legendary statesmen anymore. Because you look back in history and you have the Winston Churchills, you have like all the Margaret Thatchers, you got like a lot of people that in the past were statesmen and they had charisma and you could see that they're trying to improve their nation. But when the stuff with Ukraine kicked off, I was like, well, who would lead the West? Like who? Boris Johnson was probably like the only person that took initiative. But like, other than that, everyone was like, oh, let's wait for a consensus. Let's see. We don't know. Like, no one had the charisma. No one had the strength to actually be a good leader. And I'm also looking at the left, at the Democrats in the United States. And man, like, they actually do not have a Donald Trump on the left. Like a person that's actually charismatic, that can actually go out there. Like Obama used to be, or like Bernie Sanders. They don't have those anymore. New people, I mean, because obviously Barack Obama and Bernie Sanders are still there, but like new generation of politicians that are on the left and have the same popularity like Obama, that would have the same popularity like Bernie Sanders. I just don't know if they exist. Like, let me know in the comments section if you can think of anyone. But the interesting question is why? Why don't they exist? Let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys later. Take care.